All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome and thank you for joining us for the virtual career series. This is the May 10th session. This is the last session of the academic year. So please join us again for new sessions coming up next year. But this is the chance again for all of you Comm students to really get a sense of all the amazing jobs that are out there with your Comm degree. And so today we're going to be talking about a really exciting career, which is design. And so let me go ahead and switch over here and tell you about our speaker today. Aladrian Goods is a content design manager at Intuit, and she is going to be sharing her career journey in this exciting field of design. And so let me tell you a little bit more about Adrian. She is the content design manager at Intuit, a global financial technology platform that helps consumers and small businesses overcome their most important financial challenges. From marketing events to UX content design, Aladrian's career has been centered around connection. She has connected people with one another, music lovers with new music, users with new product features, and luxury car owners with new solutions for their vehicle concerns. Her passion for innovation and community continues to drive her career from humble startup marketing beginnings to digital communications for Fortune 100 companies, and now crafting content-centered experiences at Intuit. And so we're delighted to have Aladrian with us. And just one final note for everyone, please join us on LinkedIn. It's a private group called UCSB Department of Communication. If you request to be entered into that, we will add you to that group. There are over 4,000 members. People share job openings and networking tips and all kinds of amazing things. And then, of course, on these social sites, you can also find us everywhere you guys are, we hope. So stay in touch with us to find out events. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Aladrian so we can hear your amazing story. Oh, and before I do, just so everyone's aware, please either just come off video or mute to ask a question at any time, or ask it in the chat, and I will be monitoring the chat and ask a question of Aladrian. So with that, I'll turn over to you, Aladrian. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Jeanette. And hello, gauchos near and far. Super excited to be here today. I'll do the slide thing for a little bit, and then hopefully we can have a conversation. So again, feel free to come off video, feel free to come off of mute and ask questions, and really excited for the conversation we'll have here in a bit. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. And let's go. Okay, so as Jeanette said, I'm Aladrian. I am a gaucho, graduated in 2012 with my degree in communications, and currently lead a design team at Intuit, where we're focused on connecting small business owners and consumers to experts. So if you've seen those TurboTax Live commercials about come to TurboTax, don't do your taxes, my team is designing the tool that allows that relationship to occur. And before we dive into that, let's talk about my time at UCSB. So freshman year, I lived in San Nick on the first floor. It was really a unique experience. This is my first time living away from home. So shout out to folks who live in San Nick. I was a part of the women's basketball team as the team manager. And my freshman year, we won the Big West Championship. And that was an incredible experience. And then, went into Res Life, where I was an RA for the 6th floor North Tower in Santa Catalina. I also was on program board, where I booked all the cultural events and lectures. So, Common was one of my events. The Mirazozo Luminarium was the first time the Luminarium had been to California. That was one of the events. And I think that the program board this year just brought back the Luminarium. So if you have a chance to check that out while it's on campus, 10 out of 10 would recommend there as well. Also had the opportunity to intern with the late great Kobe Bryant when he had his youth basketball camp on campus. So that was an extremely near and dear opportunity. And I hold that closely. So yeah, that's that. And then, I was an award-winning scholar. This was me and some of my friends from the class of 2012. We all look so young in this photo, but right before graduation with our awards from the university. But let's talk about like what happened after UCSB. So I moved to Spain and it was great. I was teaching English abroad, having a lot of fun, working on a startup project called Project Snowball with some friends I met at UCSB, and that was going really, really well. But when I got back to the States, I realized I needed to get a full-time job. So I worked at RightScale, which was a local cloud startup in Santa Barbara, while I was doing Project Snowball, but ended up getting fired from that role because it was a lot more passionate about my side project than I was about the actual role that I was doing there as well. And in 2000, I guess that's like 2014, I got really sick and had to move back home after getting fired. And moving back home, that was like to Palmdale was the first time I had lived with my mom since I was 16. So that was a bit of a low and a challenge for me. Then in 2000, I think it was still like 2014, 2015, I moved to Los Angeles, worked for a bunch of different startups in community organizing, in still work within the technology space, but I kept getting laid off. I was in these marketing roles and I was really, sad about getting laid off. So I tried to do this startup thing on my own, joined some other gauchos in a venture to do marketing, digital marketing for other small businesses. And one thing I learned about being an entrepreneur is a lot of it is if you don't bring the money in, then you're not really eating. And I was having a lot of fun, like being at the social events, being out, it looking like I'm doing stuff, but it wasn't really translating into a livable wage for me to live in Los Angeles. So my great aunt, who I was living with at the time, she basically said, I love you, love your ambition, but you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here rent free. So she kicked me out in the summer of 2016. And later that fall, I moved to Texas. My uncle, he had been living in Texas and he invited me to come out and he's like, I'll teach you how to save money. I'll teach you how to make money, but you have to get a real job, not that millennial insert flower, colorful language, stuff you call work. So 3 jobs I did get. I worked 3 part-time jobs I was way overqualified for, including a retail role for the Dallas Cowboys, working at the grocery store, the local grocery store in Texas, and also like answering phones in the basement of JCPenney's headquarters in Texas. But the lesson I learned here was that, sometimes you need that humbling experience to really start over and really learn how to like work or earn a living, because charisma, being a gaucho, and being able to like be social is not always gonna pay the bills. Yes, it'll help build those relationships and connections, but this was a great like humbling experience for me. And while I was working these 3 part-time jobs, I took a quiz online and discovered UX, or user experience design. And it was kind of a light bulb moment where I learned all the language that I needed and the practical skill to describe all the things that I was trying to do in my entrepreneurial endeavors. So learning about that in about 2017, early 2017, I was like, okay, well, now I need to increase my income in order to afford to pay for my design certification. And fun story, while I was working at Kroger, I was wearing my UCSB alumni sweater, and this couple comes through my line at like 11 o'clock in Texas, suburban Texas, by the way. And the male was like, hey, she went there, pointing to my sweater. So that gaucho connection really sparked a conversation. She lived in San Cat 10 years before I lived in San Cat. She was from Southern California, working in a very similar department as my uncle was at a different company. So I was able to build those connections and build those connections. And when a role came up at Toyota Lexus that I was qualified for, she was the one to actually connect me to the hiring manager, and I was ultimately hired. for that job. Thank you, Karen. Sadly, in 2017, like my favorite person in the entire world passed away. So special shout out to my grandfather, because he told me I had a gift for public speaking and I should consider being a motivational speaker so I can get paid to lie like the rest of them. But I'm not lying here, but always think of him when I'm giving a talk there. So let's fast forward a little bit. 2018, I'm still working at Toyota. I start my career foundry certification. I complete my program, but it wasn't easy for me to like job guarantee first, application, you're in there. No, the reality was it was way more students completing certifications for UX design than roles and opportunities that were available. So what I ended up having to do was go to events, schedule coffee chats, talk to anyone who would listen, and really start to understand like what transferable skills and real world problems can I solve with these new UX skills to bridge the gap in my experience and show up as the right match for a company. And Intuit presented itself as just that company. In fact, I didn't know about content design as a career path until I was on LinkedIn, and my first role, product content designer, was kind of targeted to me. And I read the job description. I'm like, oh, wait, like that's exactly what I can do. I'm good at writing. I understand UX design principles. I'm a collaborative leader. Let's go for it and apply. And Intuit was the first company to give me a second round of interviews. And it's been kind of an upward trajectory ever since. So when I started that role at Intuit, I, was really excited and really grateful to be there, but I was terrible. I was not good at the job at all. There was some technical acumen that I had missed out on, but the things that made me good were a lot of things that I learned as a communication scholar, right? So like how to make eye contact, how to, ask open-ended questions, how to understand how organizations are structured and where the power and influence lies. So rather than showing up as someone who always needed help, I could be proactive in finding the right person to have the right conversation to help me kind of overcome and learn quickly and adjust. And once I figured that out, I got promoted twice in 2021 from individual contributor to which is basically like the associate content designer to senior content designer. And then 6 months later, I was asked to apply for the position of senior design manager that I'm in now. So it's been a journey, and this is from 2012 to 2023. So I just share that with you all to understand that I know, school's coming to an end, or you're really thinking about like what that future looks like for you. It's gonna take some time to get to your like ideal dream role, but hopefully some of the lessons I shared today help you dodge the inevitable pitfalls and get there a lot quicker. And then the other thing I wanted to just point out is I'm a huge Lakers fan. So you can see there's some correlation, but not causality of how the Lakers were doing and like where I was being successful in life. So let's talk about what's content design. So content design is a way of thinking. So it's really about using data and evidence to give the audience what they need at the time they need it in a way that they expect. So if you're familiar with user experience design, it's basically thinking about like, how do we solve problems using design thinking? And content design takes those same design thinking principles, but thinks about the messaging, thinks about the information hierarchy, as well as like the words, the voice and tone that we're using to communicate to our target audience. And I also like this quote by Nicole Fenton, it talks about words as materials. And my favorite part of this is like, she's like, I don't write fiction or short stories. I use language to solve problems. So that's a lot of what I do. Well, not me personally in my day-to-day anymore, now that I'm leading a team, but I create space for that sort of problem solving to happen within my team. So thinking about content design again, so the structure, right? So structure for one is, I'm just looking at my notes. I know this, but like I want to make sure I'm giving you guys the full understanding of this. Yeah, so basically the structure of this is, hey, what are our principles, right? What are our voice and tone guidelines? Like what terminology do we actually use to make sure that at our 15,000 plus company, that no matter if I'm or someone on my team is writing in San Diego, California, and someone is writing in, New York, that the customer feels like it's coming from the same source, which is our Intuit or one of our brands there as well. And then systems and standards. I'm sorry, that's systems and standards. Structure is more of like taxonomy. So how is the information organized in our data systems? Like, is it tagged and labeled properly? So when engineers want to surface that information, they're able to find that quickly. Or is it information architecture? So like, what's the most important stuff? Like really thinking about hierarchy of information is something that my team does a lot of. And then substance is last but not least, the actual language or the words that show up on that page. Before I move forward, is there any questions so far? Or anything I need to clarify? Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, so thinking of content design, so Intuit is known for content design. Like we have one of the largest and best like content design organizations in the world, I would say. And one way we've scaled this is through our content design.intuit.com website or our content style guide. So it has our voice and tone principles, accessibility and inclusion principles, style, word lists, content patterns, etc. So any new content designer coming into Intuit or any partner who may be a project manager or product manager, marketing person, engineer even, can reference this to influence the way that they write to ensure consistency across our products. And then also thinking about like product experiences, right? So this is just a screen grab of one of the projects one of my team members have been working on. Is they've taken this huge Excel sheet of questions and decision tree for a recommendation and thought, how do we take all these questions and filter it down to consumable information that's clear, concise, and actionable. So the rep or the expert who's required to make this recommendation to a customer can do this at a glance without the cognitive burden of trying to figure out like what this means. So yeah, making the complex simple is something that we really focus on and really like to do. And then, just three points here for everyone on the call and everyone who's watching this video is see what possibility, challenge the status quo, and remember to have fun. So the first thing, opportunity is all around you. So if you're interested in going into design as a career path or content design as a career path, look and see like where's there opportunities to solve real world problems using design. So this is a coffee shop I believe in El Paso, Texas, that's made out of, I think like 3 or 4 shipping containers. So the designer who saw this didn't see just shipping containers for storage stuff. They saw an opportunity for art to be displayed or community to be created and a destination for people to visit. And I think there's tons of problems to be solved in the world. And that's something you should be thinking about as you enter the job market as well. And also, challenge the status quo. This is one of my favorite pictures from Christmas time when I was living in Texas. There's this house that literally went above and beyond, which is fantastic because it stands out. It had a Ferris wheel, it had interactive components. But my favorite part was the neighbor next door who pointed and just said ditto, which is a zig or a zig to the zag. And both of them are very unique and stand out in their own ways. But I love the minimalism here and the sort of wittiness there as well. And lastly, we're gauchos. We know how to get stuff done, and we know how to have a good time while doing it. So do some stuff you shouldn't be doing. Try something else, like maybe remix like some things you've been learning from communications with some new skills like UX design, and see what sticks. Have a lot of fun, go out in the world, do your thing. And I'm looking forward to the conversation we get to have here together. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Aladrian. Awesome. I love that. I love your examples, and that Christmas thing is hilarious. All right. I know Sophia, Maya, we're not going to put you on the spot. Who else do we have here? Sophia, Maya, Jessica, if you have anything to ask, this is your chance, because Aladrian is here. And again, it's all about what are the possibilities with your comm degree. She had I loved the path that you shared with us of all the trials and tribulations, and nothing is ever an easy straight line. You just never know where something's going to lead you. So I think that's definitely very inspiring, Aladrian, is how you just had to like suck it up and work hard and go work at the grocery store or something, right?
And I did not want to go, but that's where my biggest blessing came from.
Yeah, exactly. So you guys can ask any question you want if you have anything about your current job hunt, or what is design, what's her day in the life look like. You can chat it if you don't want to speak it, if anyone has a question. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and there's a question, so I'll just save mine for later.
Let's see. She's unable to turn on her mic. Let's see. Okay. Thank you for sharing. Was able to resonate with the challenges post-grad. I was wondering what you learned or would like to share about creating a startup.
Yep. I think what I learned about creating a startup is that I think I kind of mentioned it, that charisma and like spunk and being likable will only get you so far. Like, you still need to have tangible skills to deliver on what I'm getting everyone hyped and energized around. I think at the time, we were all fresh out. We all graduated in 2012. Well, one of us graduated like a couple years before us. But just like making sure that you can deliver on what you say. So that say-do ratio needs to come closer to 1-to-1 than like I say 50 things, but I only could deliver 5, so that's kind of the biggest lesson I learned. Also, I think it was humbling too, because I was feeling good. I graduated, did a lot of stuff that I wanted to do, was acknowledged at the highest level, graduated from with a degree in communication. Y'all know how hard it is to get into this major. Like, I was feeling myself a lot. So when it didn't work out the way I intended it to, it really impacted the friendships that I had going in to that venture. So, I learned a lot in humility, and just making sure that I'm not taking my gifts for granted, or the people that I've connected with for granted too.
Great. If you have any follow-up, Jessica, just put it in the chat and we'll ask that. So Jasmine had a question. What is a typical day like for you in your current profession?
Meetings all day. Let's see, typical day. Typically we have, I'll just look at my calendar. Today was different because I had a conference this morning. So had some space in my calendar. But let's see. A typical day, I usually start around 8 a.m., 8 to 8:30, because we work on an international team. So our global working hours kind of overlap with our team in India to make sure if there's any, decisions that need to be made, or work that needs to be reviewed, that we're doing it at a time that is best for both of those teams. So I'll do a design review at the top of the morning, and then I'll have my one-on-ones with my team. So just to check in, see what they're working on, where they're blocked, if they need any of my support in their projects or getting unstuck, or want to talk about whatever it is that they want to talk about. And I usually have some type of heads down time to really focus on strategy and planning. Well, I guess right now it's for Intuit, it's the year end. So we are sort of a seasonal business because tax season is January to April. Our fiscal year ends in July instead of December 31st. So right now, a lot of collecting feedback, a lot of summarizing goals and how did we perform, and really preparing for making those pay and performance decisions are happening. And then I might go to a product review where different product teams are sharing out new features that are being released or insights from research. And my role in those conversations is to genuinely understand what the teams are trying to solve and see if there's any opportunity to bring consistency, clarity to the language we're using, or the experiences, because there's a lot of folks building in the same product. But again, we want to make sure that the end-to-end experience feels the same and cohesive to the folks who are using our products to serve customers. So that's a lot of my role. And yeah, that's kind of a day, week, time
Great.
in a nutshell.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Jasmine, for that question. So Maya has a question. She says, I'm wondering if you could describe the differences between content design versus web design or other types of design.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we should think about design as an umbrella term. And then there's a variety of disciplines that align to design. So web design is typically, apps or websites. And web design, I think we use visual design when we're thinking of web design, because these are the folks who are thinking about color theory, or what color the button should be, or what vibe or feeling should our brand evoke, and how do you have that consistency no matter where they are or how they show up, or where those pages are, or where the customer shows up to our product. UX design or interaction design usually thinks about, hey, what is the customer trying to do? What problem do they have? And then how should we design this app and think about okay, if I click this, what happens? What happens after I click it? Can I go back? Do I need to continue to go forward? What's the mindset of the person who's coming into this app? How do we kind of create those interactions that make it intuitive and easy for the person to get the job done? Now, content design is a nuance of UX design, I would argue, because we think the same way, but our viewpoint starts with language, starts with understanding of what is it that they're trying to accomplish. Again, that we still want that empathy for the customer problem and what the customer is trying to do, so we can make sure we're solving that intently. But we're also thinking about hey, what is the voice and tone that we need to use here? How do we make this more clear? Where do we not need words or language or visuals to just allow them to do the thing? So that's kind of the difference there, and happy to go in more detail, Maya, if that was if you want more information, I'm happy to talk more about that.
Great. Okay, questions are rolling in again here. Jessica has a follow-up. She says, in your UX journey, how did you figure out your niche in the UX design structure while learning the skills online, such as the research, software creation, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the Career Foundry course that I took, it was pretty holistic of UX in general. So starting with customer research and understanding the different research methods, and we actually had to do and facilitate our own research. And I felt kind of prepared. I was I've done research papers before. I know how to ask questions, or how to make sure I have a diverse group that's not homogenous, and things of that nature. So I felt good about research. But then, it's a little bit different than doing academic research paper. but in like anything, you get better with practice and time. So again, talking to anyone who would listen to me about research. During the pandemic, Clubhouse was a thing. I talked about UX design and content design on Clubhouse and made friends who were researchers, and we hosted rooms weekly, almost twice a week actually, about UX research. And I was able to learn from their experiences and take that and apply it to my day-to-day job to get better at that skill. But as far as content design goes, like a lot of my career, like I was already writing. Digital communication specialist. So applying the Lexus brand and voice and tone to how we communicate to customers, that's the transferable skill. For content design, I was doing digital marketing, which is essentially creating persuasive content to get someone to buy something or click somewhere or convert. That's a transferable skill to content design. And honestly, LinkedIn sent me the job and I'm like, oh, that's my thing, So I think what I would say is like, sometimes you have to just continue to take a step in the right direction. And you really only need like one yes or one opportunity to really get everything to click and make sense. And as far as like the technical part, you said software creation. I don't think you need to be technical. Like, I think you need to know enough to be dangerous, but you don't have to learn coding, or you don't have to have a CS degree, or need to, you need to know about the new technologies. So I know everyone's probably hearing about generative AI and ChatGPT and maybe some fear and anxiety around that. It's not going to take your job, but someone who knows how to use it and use it well will. So that's what I will say about, new technologies and the technical aspects.
Great. Great. Okay. Maya has another question. She says, what advice would you give if we are trying to figure out what sector of design, UX versus visual, we are interested in specifically? And are the skill sets you need, such as proficiency in different softwares, very different for each?
Yeah, that's a great question, Maya. I would say just test it out. YouTube University is a really great tool. There's been an influx of certification programs coming out, but I also think there's a lot of great content available that is either like cost little to nothing. So before investing thousands of dollars into this certification, because it's guaranteeing you a job at the end of it, learn like as much as you can for free. So YouTube's a great place to check out. Happy to share some links of designers who are doing great stuff and doing great at explaining that with you as well. And try it out. I think as far as like technical skills, the only thing I think that may have distinct skills or distinct tools is if you want to do something like design technology or like front end development, which needs to learn like JavaScript, HTML, CSS to build prototypes that are actually clickable and functional. However, for all the other tools, if you learn design tools like Figma, which is a design tool that I showed my presentation in, that's a primary tool that folks are using across. And Figma does a great job of doing educational content for free on their YouTube channel. So you can check that out, and you can download Figma for free as well. I think they have a free tier. And then for students, you might get more projects than the other like just general free population there as well. And I would say that's my feedback on that. So YouTube University, just like check it out. Try some things. You can do like a UI challenge, which is more like visual design. So that'll help you get practice within the design tool of your choice, whether it's Figma, Sketch. I don't know, there's a bunch of other ones, but Figma is the best and the most popular right now. And you also can use Figma in the browser. So that's the distinguisher. Like you don't have to have a Mac or a PC to use Figma. You can just use it in the browser. And then also, yeah, I think just try it out.
That's a lot of great resources too. Maybe we can have a list I can get from you and we can post that just so that students can have, because there's lots of great stuff, especially when you think about the free resources, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I mentioned this to the comm students at Comm Career Day too, is, you know, folks get like, I think they're eager to learn more, but I don't want folks to go in more debt or, you know, be coerced into paying thousands of dollars to get this certification and then kind of end up in a worse place than they were when they started.
I was just curious, since that there's such variety in some of these roles, is like when you're hiring someone on your team, what are you looking for? Like what kind of experience or what things pop out to you on a resume that maybe could be good takeaways?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when I'm hiring, I'm typically looking for, I guess it just depends. So like if I'm hiring someone fresh out of college or at an entry level or associate role, I think I'm looking for like ability to storytell, understanding of the fundamentals. So do you get what the design process is and why each of these steps are important? You may not have the experience of doing the full design process, and in reality, you don't get to do the full design process every time, but you need to know the foundations of like when to use stuff and why. I also look for, you know, just like passion for it. Sometimes like, well, I guess this isn't interviews. I'll get to the resume stuff too, but I think the sort of intangibles like resonate with me more because I also think you can learn a lot of this stuff on the job there as well. But like passion for, you know, something and wanting to, you know, be eager to learn, eager to contribute and problem solve is something that's super important to me. And I guess specifically on a resume, things I'd look for is, you know, like leading cross-functional teams. That sounds very corporate, but like working in the team with different people who have different skill sets, but working towards a shared goal. And that doesn't have to be like in a formal like internship. I think if you're a part of a sorority or you're part of an organization on campus that has to put on events or that has to, you know, do like a gala or has to do something that requires a group of people to contribute to the goal, I think that's super important and transferable, because in content design specifically, we're often the thread that connects all these experiences together. So being able to connect the dots, being able to, you know, understand like what actions need to be taken, clearly communicate who's responsible for what, and then ensure that those things get done is super important too. Did that answer your question, Jeanette?
That was fabulous. I love it. It's always helpful to hear what employers are looking for, you know, because you're right, passion and those intangibles definitely come through. So if you're willing to work hard and learn and try new things, yeah, and all the things that you guys are doing at school, right? Like you know, Aladrian, you did basketball. Clearly, that's a ton of dedication and teamwork and perseverance and commitment, right? So anything that you do would help you show up better at work. So. All right, well, we're getting near 6:45. If anyone has any final questions.
I just wanted to say, Aladrian, thank you for saying all of that, because so many, you know, I'm working with a lot of seniors in my 2 classes right now, and they're all panicked right now because they don't have the career job lined up, and they, you know, they think that the world's going to end if they don't graduate with a job in hand. And I keep telling them, just don't worry about it. It's going to work out. And probably the first thing you get into may not be the thing that you're in 2-3 years from now. Don't worry about it. You're going to have lots of different opportunities come your way, and don't stress about it. But just pointing out to them that the things that they have been involved with, even while they're in school, even if they haven't been like formal internships or jobs, can really be applied. And they can certainly talk about it on their resume and in interviews about how they learned from those those processes and how they can demonstrate what they can do in that. So thank you. That was really useful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. All right. Well, if you guys don't have another final question, we'll just say thank you. And is there anything final you want to say, Aladrian? Any final takeaways or?
No, final takeaways. I just want to say thank you for inviting me. I think this is like, event number 2 with the university or Department of Communication. And it's always good to be with gauchos, but especially gauchos in communication. So appreciate you all. I think you all send out my LinkedIn, or should I drop it in the chat? Feel free to connect with me. And once the craziness of year-end reviews subsides, I'll definitely be willing to connect and have some coffee chats.
Great. Great. Thank you very much. And we'll definitely share this video. It will be recorded and shared on the communication department website. We'll share it on social as well, so you guys can check it out there. And thank you very much, Aladrian. I appreciate it.
Great.
Awesome. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Bye.
Jenny. Bye.